Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'm Nicole Cooper. I'm the town clerk for the town of Ajax, and this is the first meeting of the Ajax Compliance Audit Committee in respect of the 2022 municipal election. And so the committee has not yet appointed a chair, so I'll just be chairing the first few moments of this meeting just until a point where the chair is elected, and then we will pass it over. We begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas, more specifically the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action and acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations. Let us keep these principles close as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. Just before we move to selecting a chair, I would just like to quickly introduce Jason McWilliam to my right, who's the town's Manager of Legislative Services and Deputy Clerk. And also the Compliance Audit Committee members, Paul Jones, Kelly Gravel, and Callie Chapman. So at this time, I would just like to invite any nominations from the committee members for a chair.
I'd like to nominate Ms. Gravel.
Excellent. Are there any further nominations? No? Okay. Then seeing none, we will vote on that. We just vote using the buttons.
Oh,
on your...
okay. There's your yes button. Does it work? Okay.
Okay, that carries. So I will now pass the meeting over to you, Ms. Gravel.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Good evening, members of the committee, as well as the staff and members of the public. The purpose of this meeting is to consider applications requesting that a compliance audit be granted in relation to two candidates in the 2022 Ajax Municipal and School Board elections. So generally the format for tonight's meeting will go as follows. First, we are going to receive delegations from first the applicant and then the candidate. Those delegations will be limited to 10 minutes each. If those parties wish to address the committee. As well, committee members may ask questions of the applicant or the candidate in relation to their verbal or written submissions. And when I say the candidate and the applicant, also if they are represented, that person can certainly speak for them. But we will not be entering into any debate with any of the candidates or the applicants. Once we've concluded our review of the delegations and written submissions, we will discuss the applications, likely in a confidential discussion, and make a decision whether to grant or reject the request for a compliance audit. As I said, we may deliberate in private during this time. If we cannot make a decision at tonight's meeting, a subsequent meeting of the committee will be called in order to render a decision. If a request for a compliance audit is in fact granted, the committee shall appoint an auditor who will be tasked with performing the compliance audit. All decisions will be made by a majority vote of the members. Just keep in mind that the committee tonight we provide a gatekeeper function, so we're not here to determine any sort of guilt or to proportion any sort of responsibility. It's going to be just whether or not a compliance audit will be ordered. Ultimately, the committee will provide brief reasons for its decision after the meeting, which will be made available to the applicant, the candidates, and the public within 7 days, I believe, of the meeting. And I believe that will be posted on the website and likely provided directly to the applicant and the candidates. And that is all I have for my opening statement. So if everybody is ready, our first application for compliance audit this evening is number 5.1 on the agenda, and it's Arthur Augustine. I will let everyone know, both here and if anyone is online, that the committee has received all of the written materials, including something today, and we have reviewed all of that. So keep that in mind when you're making your submissions and use your time appropriately. Make the best of it. So first of all, let's have, it's the applicant with respect to the first application, which is it Mr. B. Johnson? Oh, actually, apologies. Sorry, just my apologies. Ms. Chapman just reminded me, just with respect to declarations of pecuniary interest, does anyone on the committee, having read everything, do we have any declarations?
I have none.
None?
I have none.
Okay, seeing none, we'll note that for the record. Thank you. And now moving on to Mr. Johnson.
You just say when. Okay, great. So after reviewing all the candidates' financial statements in the 2022 election, two stood out, one of them being Mr. Augustine. I would expect that somebody who was running for mayor would actually provide a fulsome financial statement. I looked at Mr. Augustine's and I found it woefully inadequate. First of all, the entirety of the financial filing is 2 lines of expenditures that are, I'm not on the screen here. That's okay, Jason. Hardware problem. There you go.
There we are.
The entirety of Mr. Augustine's financial filing is 2 lines, 2 expenditures, perfectly round numbers, which in and of themselves seems suspicious to me. Last time I checked, when we calculate HST on expenditures and things, it rarely comes out to a perfectly round number. So that was the very first thing that stood out at me. The second thing that stood out at me was that Mr. Augustine has spent $5,100 on his campaign, yet he has no sources of that income. He and his spouse did not donate any money themselves. They have no donors. Where did the money come from? But most telling is Mr. Augustine did not file any declaration of previous inventory in his financial statement of signs. And yet, throughout the campaign, he was placing signs on properties, quite often private property without authorization. These were taken from a property on Roslyn Road East, just at Roslyn and Harwood, where Mr. Augustine was placing signs. They were being taken down by the property owner, and he was repeatedly placing the signs back up. But interestingly enough, it's tough to see in this, it's a bit of an eye test, but you'll note that the signs on the right and the left have 2 different URLs, one from his previous election campaign and one from his present election campaign. One is voteforarthuraugustine.com and the other one is votearthuraugustine.com. Votearthuraugustine.com and arthuraugustine.com and voteforarthuraugustine.com. So last I checked, when I checked during the election, Mr. Augustine did not have 2 websites on those URLs. And in the previous election, one of those URLs was his old URL. So he was obviously placing old signs up during the election. And he was pretty relentless about it. This is from the one property alone, the signs that he placed there. And again, without the property owner's permission, but that's tangential to this discussion here. The reality is he had 2 sets of signs, and one was old that he didn't declare in his statement. I think that's it. Yep, that's it. Any questions?
Thank you. Does the committee have any questions? Mr. Jones?
I note in your email to the clerk, it says, please review Mr. Augustine's statement and have him update by completing the missing information. Is that really what you want?
You know what? I don't even know if that's allowable. I know there was a deadline for filing, and in my mind, Mr. Augustine didn't make that deadline. He filed an incomplete financial statement. I don't know if there's options for revision. And I don't know that it's a matter of what I want or what I don't want. I think it's a matter of what the legislation says.
Well, you are the applicant. And I understand from your statement that there are two things of particular interest to you. Where did the contributions come from
Yep.
to
Yes, sorry.
offset the expenses and to account for the recycled signs or signs from previous campaign
Yes.
that were brought into this most recent 2022 election campaign?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's actually probably a third, and that's, I think that the town of Ajax, the people of the town of Ajax deserve to see receipts for those expenditures, because to me, such nice round numbers on the expenditures seem suspicious.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chapman? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Augustine here? Please come forward.
Good evening to everyone. This is the first time in any type of setting for me. I am not very versed in things, so I tell you I may make some mistakes. So please bear with me in that. First, the gentleman, I have to basically thank you for pointing out the errors that I have made in my campaign. Not in the campaign, actually, in my financial presentation. It was genuine errors. I am not an accountant. I am not very skillful with figures. I had just returned from my native land just to prepare for the financial statement. When I did, I had a problem finding the financial forms. I did email Sarah back and forth, and for some reason I was not able to download it from where I was at. So the last day of the election, I did come in and I did fill out the form right at the front desk. Of course, I did make a few errors, and I see requested that I update the errors that I made, as the gentleman here have pointed out, and I have sat down, took my time, and I did correct the errors that I made. As he mentioned, that someone who's running for mayor should not make those type of mistakes. I'm not versed again in finances for the forms. So I have made the various connections, and he was right. I failed to put where the money came from. Before I explain that in details, 1 week before, I was involved in a very serious accident. I have proof of the accident and what the doctors have claimed. When I did come to follow the forms, I was fairly sedated, and I did make errors. And again, it's genuine errors. It was no intention at all to deceive anybody, as my finances was very minimal. I conducted a very, very grassroots campaign, and my spending was very little. One error that I saw that I made, that I asked myself after, how could I have made such an error, was I didn't indicate where the money came from, and I have indicated it on the new forms, the new financial forms that I had supplied. $3,100 came from my own pocket that I spent, that I used for the campaign, and the other $2,000, which he said is rounded off, was an estimate as to how much the the signs that he showed on the screen would, of course. He did make an error though. None of my signs were new signs. I realized that for the campaign, I could not, or we couldn't put signs on public streets. So I decided I was not going to invest not one penny in the signs. All of the signs were used from my previous campaigns. So none of the signs were from this year campaign as he had believed. But what I'm very curious about though is where would he have gotten all of those signs from? Where did those signs came from? Surely they are my signs, I'm not denying that. But how did he get access to these signs? That aroused my curiosity. And it still has me baffled up until this moment. Where would he have gotten all of Arthur Augustine's signs that he can demonstrate them on the board? I knew for a fact that my signs were being removed from all over the town of Ajax. I didn't complain because I told myself, what good would complaining? In previous elections, that had happened, and I also did not complain because, to be quite honest, I'm not a person to complain. I just don't. I take things as they come, and I live with the consequences in case if someone is doing me wrong, I just don't make it a big deal or a big issue. But again, maybe he can explain to us where he got my signs from. Because from what I know, it's also illegal to remove someone's signs on a campaign. And that beats me. Honestly, so is what, Mr. John. If you can tell us where you got my signs from?
Be happy to. You put them on a private property without permission. They were removed by the property owner.
Okay, I'm just going to, actually, we're not going to have any sort of floor debate.
Okay, sorry.
Mr. Augustine, if you can speak to us
Yes, ma'am.
specifically.
Sorry, I do
Thank you.
apologize. So again, like I said, I'm not familiar with proceedings like this, so please forgive any error that I am making. So that still remains a curiosity. Those signs were not all placed at that location. I know that for a fact, because could we bring up the possible signs, please? Is that possible, so I can explain something?
I'm sorry?
If I can see a photo of the sign, so I can show that those signs were not all placed in the same location.
Okay, I think,
So therefore, those signs will have to be taken from various places across Ajax and brought to where he had it visible.
so if I can assist you slightly, Mr. Augustine, with respect to the signs, that's really not what the compliance audit application is really about. I think that's probably a corollary issue. It's really more about the contribution issue and the expense issue. So if you wanted to spend your time on that, that would actually be very
Okay,
helpful
ma'am.
to the
Okay,
committee.
Okay, so the errors that I've made, generally made, I have made the corrections, and from this new application, you will see where the funds came from. It came from my actual pocket. And the other $2,000 that was mentioned was what I had estimated that the signs that I used was the fair market value for those signs. And that was the funds that I did spend for my campaign. It was a grassroots campaign, got very little help, and I did the best I can. But the financial statement, there were errors, which I admit, and I've corrected the errors, as he had requested in his complaint, I guess.
Sorry. Do you have anything else, or can we proceed to questions from the committee if they have any? You still have a few more minutes.
No, that's it for now, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have any questions from the committee? Mr. Jones?
So you've done a new financial report for
Yeah.
us.
Yes, sir.
Are you intending to file that with us?
Could you repeat, sir?
Are you intending to file that new financial report with us?
Yes, sir, definitely.
Okay. And I understand that you brought no new signs into the campaign in 2022. All of your signs are from previous elections.
Yes, sir.
Have you run, other than say 2018, have you run for office
Yes, sir, I have.
multiple times?
I ran before for regional chair
Okay,
in, I believe it was 2014.
okay. And so you're telling us that all of the signs were brought from previous campaigns
Yes, sir, I am
and
very,
that, oh, go ahead.
I am very concerned of the environment. I don't believe in messing up the environment, so I usually keep the signs. I've always kept them. Those that are removed or stolen, I have no control over. But pretty well most of my signs, I have basically kept them as late as 2014. And it's no secret because there was a slight difference in the website. So it's
And
no
you-
deception of any kind.
And you say you valued the incoming signs to the 2022 election as being valued at $2,000. Is that
Yes,
correct?
with the help of a maybe an expert on signs creation, we've decided that the sign would have a fair market value of approximately $2,000.
And how many signs would you say you brought from previous campaigns into this 2022 election?
All of the signs were brought, so and I had roughly about 50 signs.
50.
Yeah. Different sizes and stuff like that, but no, but yeah, 45 to 50 signs when we checked.
There's about 12 on this lawn. This one lawn.
I can assure you, sir, that the amount of signs that we've seen that the gentleman showed, they were not placed in all one location. I've lost sign all over Ajax. I've put signs, actually all of my signs were on private property, and the residents will call me and say, what happened, why your signs are gone? And all I can say, I don't know. But I do know for a fact there was someone or a group of individuals removing my signs. When there was wind and rain, I will go around and look to see where the signs, if the rain or the wind had destroyed them, and I would either replace them or put them back up. But more than 50% of my signs were gone, not on unauthorized location and very much authorized location.
50 signs is not a lot of signs to blanket Ajax with.
Pardon me?
50 signs doesn't seem to be very many signs to blanket the town of Ajax with. So 50 signs.
I agree with you, providing, like as in previous elections, you were allowed to put signs on street corners and different locations. But knowing the fact that we were prohibited from putting signs on the street and only in residential, I've decided to not invest in the signs. Instead, I invested in flyers and not in signs, because
So,
signs,
so you're saying that the street value of the signs, 50 signs, $2,000 is $40 a sign.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Jones? Ms. Chapman?
I do have a couple of questions.
This,
And I just want to make sure that I understand what you're saying correctly, Mr. Augustine. So you indicated that you ran for mayor in 2018, is that correct?
yes, ma'am.
And you ran again in 2022, this last
Yes.
election.
Yes.
But the previous election, you said that you ran for regional chair, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So when did you run for mayor one other time?
In 2018, I ran for mayor. And in 2022, I also ran for mayor. In 2014, I ran for regional chair.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Chapman?
No.
No. I just want to have a couple of clarifications. So you advised that you contributed $3,100 to your campaign
Yes, ma'am.
and that you used that for advertising
Yes.
outside of the signs. You didn't spend that on signs?
No money was spent on the signs.
So what did you spend that $3,100 on?
Ad with the newspaper company, and another ad with another company that was distributing some of the flyers, that printed my flyers and distributed them.
Do you have receipts for those?
Yeah. May I come up?
Is that something, are we accepting the new financial statement for information?
I would suggest we do. And I guess the question that, based on yours, if I may,
Yes.
is
Yes.
are those expenditures reflected in the financial statement that you've since prepared?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think that was it from me, but are there any questions that arise from that conversation?
I may
do
have
have
an
the
additional
receipts here.
question once we review the documents.
Yeah, this is some, and then the-
Madam Chair, I consider to be a written submission. Yeah.
I will ask Mr. Johnson if he's had an opportunity to see any of this documentation.
I have not.
Okay. So this is something, we're going to consider this to be just a written submission, not an actual new financial statement per se, according to the legislation. So perhaps this is something we can have a copy made for Mr. Johnson as well. He should see it. Please. Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, I look at it as an explanation.
Potentially, yes. Yep. So, Mr. Augustine, if you can stay, or if you want to sit down, we're going to take a few minutes, probably just here at the table to take a look at it, or do we want to? So we may have some questions that arise from this.
Madam Chair, might I
Yes.
suggest a short recess to
Fair
give us
enough.
time to reproduce these documents
Perfect.
and circulate?
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll have you sit down, Mr. Augustine, and we're going to just take a short recess so we can take a look at the documents and come back to you, and we'll let you know. Let's say 10 minutes, but it might be a couple minutes.
Madam Chair, we are back.
Thank you very much. Just before I get back to Mr. Augustine, Mr. Johnson, did you have a chance to review the documents that we received as well?
Yeah, quickly, I have, however, I don't see any receipts.
Well, I'll actually, if you want to have did you have anything else that you wanted to? Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Mr. Augustine, if you want to return to the podium. So we have reviewed the written, the new written information. Do we have any questions arising from that? Ms. Chapman?
I think I have a question that still goes back to the signs. If I'm understanding you correctly, Mr. Augustine, you indicated that all the signs were recycled from the 2018 election. Is that correct?
No, ma'am, that is incorrect.
Okay.
It goes back to 2014. That's why I wanted to see a copy of what the gentleman showed, so I could have demonstrated the difference in the sign and even the grain of my beard in the process between 2014 to present. It's two different set of photos. My attire is completely different. There's other intricate things I can point out to show that they were from as early as 2014.
So in 2014, it was my understanding from what you indicated before that you had run for regional chair.
Yes, ma'am.
So both of these signs indicate you're running for mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would have anticipated, sir, that you wouldn't have had signs printed for mayor if you were running for regional chair.
No, ma'am.
So then my conclusion is, if you didn't get any signs for the 22 election, based on what you told us, all of these signs must have been from the 2018 election.
The reason being, with the 2014, the position that I ran for, as you've mentioned, is regional chairman. All I did, I just get some things and stick it over, saying at Mayor of Ajax. It was just a stick over regional chair, and it just stick a little sticker on saying regional chairman.
Okay, so when did you print those stickers?
Just before I put them on.
So for the 2022 election
The-
or for the 2018 election?
From the 2014 election, when I ran in 2018, they were stickovers. And then I brought them, the signs, I just reused them in this current election because everything was the same. Except maybe there was some website, I think, vote out or vote or something to that effect.
Okay.
The signs were very well constructed. They were very fairly expensive signs. They were built with a different type of frame. It's not the usual frame that you see on most candidates. So they were well built and they were well stored.
Okay,
And
so
they
you,
were, in my opinion, fairly durable and expensive.
so I thought I had heard you say that you had 50 signs, but on this document that you handed up, it says there were 500 signs. Were they 500 or 50?
Miss, the document that I submitted, unless I made an error that I was supposed to be 50. Oh yeah, I made an error. Yes, 500. No, I couldn't, had to be 50. Was doing it yesterday, and because it's only yesterday I got what the allegations were, and maybe I could have made the nervousness I put an extra O.
So is it 50 or 500?
50.
It's 50, okay. And were those signs initially printed by Empo Graphics, or was Empo Graphics the expert that helped you determine what they were worth?
He was the one who, or they were the ones who constructed the sign, and based on that and the fact that they know the quality of the sign, we estimated that's what's the worth of the signs. because, as I mentioned before, ma'am, they were strongly constructed. They were constructed with the intent to withstand wind and rain. So it's not only the actual sign, but it's the construction of the sign that would have also escalated the amount. The actual construction of the sign. The actual wood of the sign that was used was a special type of wood to withstand wind and rain.
Okay, Mr. Augustine, and then you had some detailed notes on this new document, which indicated that you had some other expenses, and one of them, the third one listed is news advertising, and the name Empro appears again
Yeah.
for $435, and I can't quite read. Is it 46 cents?
Yeah,
What was that for?
advertising. The company, they advertise online and they do the advertising. I am not very computer skillful with whatever Facebook and that kind of stuff, so that's what they did. They advertise it, or they will announce vote for it ever so often.
So it was online advertising?
Miss, they did it in every way possible. They did online. They did something called voiceover. I think that's what it is. So that's what something was for.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman. Mr. Jones?
I want to build on that. The expenses that are referred to on the bottom of page 2 of 7, Central News, I assume, was that a newspaper advertisement?
No. They prepared the some flyers
Flyers, okay,
and distributed it.
okay. And then the news advertiser, was that an advertisement?
Yes, that was a newspaper ad. Yeah.
Okay. And then you've already answered the question in terms of the MPRO. Do you have receipts for these 3 expenditures?
I have, yeah, 2 of the receipts here. Yeah, the one for,
There are 2 receipts. Do you have the third receipt?
I had called the Empro company, and when I spoke to the lady who answered the phone, she checked on her file and she said that the gentleman who did my voiceover was not in the office and that he was not going to be coming back on fund vacation. So I couldn't get it, but I can always get it, miss it in a few days or what have you, whenever the gentleman comes back.
Just while Mr. Johnson's taking a look at those, did you have any other questions, Ms. Chapman?
No.
No. Mr. Augustine, did you open a bank account at the start of your campaign?
Miss, could you repeat, please?
Did you open a campaign bank account?
No, I did not, because I actually had no money, zero money, and I used my money as I went about. I didn't open my bank account at all.
So that $3,100 didn't come from a campaign account.
No, it came off of my credit card.
Do you have a receipt for that?
If I have a receipt for the money from my credit card,
Yes.
the payment would be on my phone, miss, but I don't have my phone with me but the payment would be on my phone. The credit card statement, I didn't work with the credit card statement, but the payment would be on my phone.
Okay, I'll just leave it there for now. Mr. Johnson, did you have anything that came up from the receipts at all? I'll just have you stand up, please. And perhaps at the microphone, is that easier? Yeah, thanks.
So the one thing that did jump out at me was the $2,000 expenditures for the signs. The date on that was 4 years ago, yet Mr. Augustine stated that the signs he purchased were purchased 4 and 8 years ago, number one. Number two, if you zoom in on the pictures of the signs, it's very evident that there are no stickers on those signs whatsoever. Those signs are single pieces, and frankly, because the property owner where Mr. Augustine repeatedly was placing his signs retained those signs when he took them down, I can actually produce them at if this is found to go to a next audit committee. There are no stickers on those signs.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Did you have any questions that arise from Mr. Johnson speaking? Mr. Jones?
Not from Mr. Johnson, but I have a question for Mr. Augustine.
Okay, well then I'll have Mr.
Can I sit
Johnson.
down?
Go ahead. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
How many times have you run for municipal office? You said 2014, 2018, 2022.
Correct.
Is there any, is that it? 3 times?
Yes,
Or
sir.
had there been more?
3 times.
And each time you would have had to file financial statements.
Yeah, but they were done, sir, by an accountant. In this particular election, I ran a grassroots. I couldn't even afford an accountant. So I've decided to take my chances and do it on my own to the best of my ability.
Okay.
Previously, they were prepared by someone else. This time, it was prepared by me. And I must admit, I did make errors on the following to the form. Now that I've had a chance to review, I ask myself, how could I make such an error? But bearing in mind, sir, just a week before I was in an accident, the 401. I was hospitalized and I was on heavy medication. And my major concern was coming to the town and getting the documents filed. And the errors was genuine errors. I didn't spend big money on my campaign. I didn't spend hundreds of thousands. I took it out of my own pocket as the days go by. There are sometimes I had to use whatever I had in my pocket.
Anything else, Mr. Jones?
Just that in looking at the multiple signs on the lawn, it seems that there had to be at least 4 different kinds of signs produced. Size-wise, photograph-wise. Is that fair to say? That there was more than one sign type and size?
Yeah, because there were signs from previous elections. If you look at the signs carefully, you would see the difference. For example, there's one sign, I think I caught it when he showed it. There was one sign, one time I had on a pink shirt. If you look at my beard structure.
Sorry, Mr. Augustine, I don't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry. But if you could stay close to the microphone, it's a
Okay,
lot easier
sorry,
for us
sorry.
to hear you. Thank you.
Sorry, I do apologize.
If you wanted to move it over a little bit as well, that's whatever works for you.
Okay. And this is why I had requested previously, ma'am, to, if you can see a photo of the sign, I'll be able to demonstrate to you the difference in the signs over the years.
Let's just take a moment. Can we have that put up? Can we have that portion with the photographs put up, please?
What is that?
Excuse me a second.
Is that the one?
There's another photo. There was another photo with signs.
Well, there's a headshot one, then there's a,
Look to the left, our left, where I do not have the stuff in my shirt pocket. And I think it's a pink shirt I have on there. If you can look carefully, you will see all of those are old signs, like early as 2014.
but there's at least 4, perhaps 5 different signs. There's a sign with a headshot
Yeah,
on the left.
yeah,
There's a smaller sign on the left that's overlaying the bottom 2 signs.
right,
There's the absolute bottom one on the left that has no photo of
right,
you. So there's 3 right there.
right, from previous elections.
And then you've got one that's a full body shot.
Right, that's from previous, they're all from previous election,
And
but I'm talking about
different signs.
first 2014.
I'm up to 5.
Could I come closer to the screen if that's possible?
What's that?
Could I come closer to the screen?
I don't see the value.
I don't know that it's helpful.
Okay,
I think we understand what you're saying.
to the left, to the complete left,
Yep,
my left,
yep.
sign number 1, 2, 3, 4, what I believe was from as early as 2014. And if you look carefully, you can see the size of the mayor of Ajax. It's a lot smaller than those to the right. That was in and then those to the right was from 2018.
And one doesn't even have a headshot. It's just Arthur Augustine in print.
Even you see,
No picture.
if you look again, you see together. Let me just see.
So altogether, 5 different types of signs totaling only 50.
See, together we aspire, and now is the time for change. When I ran
Yeah.
for regional chair, those were the slogan that I used. Now is the time for change.
That
And the ones to, yeah, those are the ones. Yeah, exactly.
But again, 5 different sign types
Yeah, because for
and
each.
only a total of 50 signs. So you had a different sign printed 10 signs times 5.
For when I got the sign, I had different signs, different shot. There were those there I didn't use any photo
Yeah,
for reasons. I didn't put any photo at all.
understood.
Right. And then there are those that I just changed the design,
Yeah.
just variety.
But you brought 50 signs into the campaign in 2022, and of those 50 signs, there were at least 5 different designs.
Yes, sir. We just wanted to, for different areas, there are certain areas I wouldn't even put a photo of myself. It's as demonstrated in the bottom sign. And again, the slogan is, now is the time for change, as opposed to, together we aspire.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Anything, Ms. Chapman?
No further questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Augustine.
You're welcome.
We're going to, should we take a recess? We're going to actually, we're going to meet and discuss
Madam Chair, we are live.
Thank you very much, Mr. McWilliam. Thank you so very much for your patience. We have Mr. Johnson and Mr. Augustine here. Do I have a motion from the committee?
Thank you, Chair. I do have a motion. And my motion is as follows, that the application for a compliance audit be granted in respect of Arthur Augustine's 2022 campaign. I'm just going to give a couple of brief reasons, and written reasons will follow. I think there remains confusion on a number of matters still, even after the submissions of Mr. Augustine. Questions remain unanswered, including still having differences between the revised documents that were provided today and the oral statements made by the candidate. And I believe an audit would assist in bringing clarity to the matters on which the committee remains confused.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman. All in favor? Nope.
Just one moment, and I will open the vote.
Oh, that's right. We're not used to that. Thank you very much. So that motion is passed. Just turn myself off. We will move forward with a compliance audit. And again, I just want to remind you that we are a gatekeeper function. So we're not making any determinations other than to move forward with a compliance audit. An auditor will be selected. I will let Mr. Augustine know that you do have 14 days within which to appeal our decision, and that appeal does go to the Superior Court of Justice. But is from today, and we will issue written reasons within 7 days that will be posted online as well as provided to the parties as well. So we are finished with that matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to matter number 5.2. And Mr. Johnson is here. Ms. Henry?
Yes.
Sorry. Yes, thank you. You're right behind the podium. And I believe you have you're represented as well?
Yes, online.
Online? Okay. Thank you. So again, I'll remind the parties that each has 10 minutes. And we'll start with Mr. Johnson as soon as we're ready.
Jason, do we still need to, oh, you gotta do something there, okay. Well, Jason, Mr. McWilliam's doing that. I think it's important I respond to this accusation of Ms. Henry that I was not, I'm ineligible for, I'm ineligible to submit an audit request. And I'd ask that it not be included in my 10 minutes because this A, came in late, and B, I think it's important that I respond to it. Number one, I am on title. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Sorry, I just have a question. I mean, we can preface it by simply asking you, were you an elector in Ajax in 2022 election?
Absolutely. I was, I'm property owner, half property owner at 68 Mortimer Crescent, although this document appears to say differently. But I also have a registered corporation that is registered at that address. So I am a business owner in the town of Ajax as well.
No, no. That wouldn't qualify you as an elector. The ownership of a numbered company?
Ownership of a numbered company and a property.
Yeah.
That is registered at 68 Mortimer Crescent.
We've read the submission about questioning your eligibility.
Yes.
The question for you, as put by the chair, were you an elector on October the 24th, 2022?
Indeed,
in the town
I
of
was.
Ajax?
Indeed, I was.
Thank you. I think that's the end of that.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Ms. Henry is an interesting one. The Ontario Municipal Election Act is quite clear that basically you're not supposed to spend money to campaign outside of your nomination window. And I would submit that Ms. Henry knowingly and willingly did do that. And you know, ignorance is no excuse of the act. Ms. Henry maintained her URL and website in the 4 years prior to the election. And while I would expect that it's, you know, reasonable for candidates to spend a nominal amount of money to secure a domain name for election purposes, and that's reasonable, but to use that domain name to actually host a website that is clearly election oriented. Now, while Ms. Henry's site did mention the 2018 election, the differences between the site in the years prior to the election of 2022 and leading up to, and then post her nomination are, I would say, insubstantial in my estimation. Most of the wording remains the same. The URL remains the same. Interestingly enough, in Ms. Henry's own response to this this issue, you know, she admits that she maintained the site. She says that she was told to remove things like voting or elect, the vote dates, and things like that. And yet you can see that in January 2022, on the Meet Nancy Henry page, she actually literally has elect Nancy Henry. To add to this, she maintained her endorsements and a platform page. The platform page is conspicuously similar to her election platform page. Yes, there is some reordering of content, and there is some minor modifications to the platform items. But the reality is that Ms. Henry had this site up from 2018, actually by her own admission since 2010, but the period in question is 2018 through or prior to her nomination. And then post-nomination, the site underwent very minimal changes, extremely minimal changes. And you know, like when the wording is exactly the same on many of the pages, and many of the photographs are the same, and you'll notice that most of the platform information, although there's some minor adjustments, remain the same. Ms. Henry won her election by less than 35 votes. Actually, just to keep the math simple, less than 34 votes. If she had won by, you know, 1,000 votes, 2,000 votes, I think that we could say that this might be inconsequential. But the reality is she won by the slimmest of margins, and any advantage when you have a margin that slim, you know, to me, it flies in the face of democracy. And, you know, we've seen enough challenges with democracy in recent years that we don't need any more. And I think we can address at least this issue here. You'll notice that as well, Ms. Henry only declared approximately $111.87 for internet and other expenditures of that sort. I think it's actually I need to check. Phones and or internet expenses was $111.87. That's extremely reasonable for some web hosting over some 4 years. And regardless, she shouldn't be putting it on there anyway because she shouldn't be spending money in those 4 years. And there were no donations listed for services in kind for building, creating, or hosting that website. I think that pretty much covers everything in a nutshell, other than to speak to Ms. Henry's response that was very, very light on, in my estimation, on justifying her expenditure for the website, and very heavy on whataboutism. And I think she needs to understand that this isn't about her competitors or her colleagues, it's about her. And if she saw issues with them, then she should have filed an audit compliance request herself. for those particular people in question. And with that, I'll actually end it because it's pretty clear that this is pretty much the same website that was being used for campaigning prior to the 2022 election window.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Are there any questions from the committee?
There was a suggestion, and this was in your written submission, not in your oral, that Ms. Hendry contributed election spending rules in 2018.
If there was, that was a mistype, and I'll apologize for that. She contravened election spending rules in 2022.
I understand that Ms. Henry was noted as contravening election
Yes.
spending rules in 2018. Based on her response, do you retract that statement?
Based on her response, I would retract that because it is clear that that was an issue with the donor. But by the same token, I would say that having gone through this process or a similar process, Ms. Henry should be fully aware of the Municipal Act when it comes to election expenditures. And it's clear that if she doesn't understand it, there's no excuse for that. And if she does understand it, she just decided to defy it.
I'm not sure that's a retraction, but we'll move on.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Chapman?
I have no questions at this time. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. I'll ask you to have a seat.
Thank you.
Ms. Henry, will you be speaking or will your representative be speaking?
Actually, my accountant will start first, Mr. Andrew Tully, and I just want to make sure that my lawyer is online and can hear this. If you could verify that to the clerk, through the chair to the clerk.
Mr. Osborne, can you confirm that you can hear us?
I'll wait till that gets straightened out before proceeding.
Okay, no, just, I'll give you a second, okay. I'm just curious, all of those parties were advised to the,
Yes, they were.
okay,
And Mr. Osborne, or Mr. Barnwell, is online.
okay.
I just do not, he has been active throughout the meeting. However, I do not see video at this time.
Okay, I'm seeing that as a cumulative 10 minutes, though. Yes, just so you're aware, so use your time wisely. Oh, sorry, if we have a, perhaps stand up. I'll just have you sit down, sorry.
I was under the understanding that either myself or an agent was eligible to speak, but we were not to bring delegations. So I was under the understanding through Mr. McWilliams' note to me early on that either I could speak or an agent could speak, but I couldn't bring like an entourage to represent me.
Thank you. I do believe that there is permission for a witness to come, so that would deal with, I think, Ms. Henry's accountant, if I'm correct. With respect to the representative, though, can we clarify that, though? Can we just take a look at the rules? Because I feel like that might be correct. It's either a representative or...
I just need a moment, sorry.
Okay.
Because I literally
Okay,
had
all
other
right,
people willing to
okay, I'll have a seat, thanks. Thank you, sorry. Thank you for your patience. We just wanted to explore the actual rules. And we did see the email that Mr. McWilliam did send to you, and it does say and/or. So again, I think that it is permitted, a delegation will be permitted. Why I did ask Mr. McWilliam if they had advised ahead of time, because they do need to tell us ahead of time. So it is representative, witness, delegation, candidate, applicant, and/or. Yeah. So, but it is a cumulative 10 minutes. So it's not going to be 3 sections of 10 minutes for each person. So just keep that in mind. So, and the sections I'm looking at in the overall procedure rules for the Joint Compliance Audit Committee, I'm looking at 11.9, and I'm also looking at 13.5 as well. Just so you have that for your reference. So, do we have Ms. Henry's representative online? And
He is online. However, I don't have video or audio confirmation that he can participate in the proceedings.
okay. Did we want to stand down for a couple of minutes until we confirm that?
Sorry, he is not online. The link is not working. I've been messaged. He would need any links sent to him.
I have evidence that he is connected to the meeting this evening.
I know. It's through his work computer, and it wouldn't work, so he has left it, and he's in a different location.
Okay. So how do we wish to proceed, Madam Chair?
I mean, I'm content to proceed with your accountant and yourself. He's not going to hear what you're having to say, though. He's still connected. Should he perhaps disconnect and try to disconnect again? I mean,
He's not at the same, through the chair, sorry to interrupt, he's not at the same location he was previously when he was connected, so that would not work. He would need a new link sent to him through the chair.
So what is his plan?
He's waiting for a link to be sent to him via
Madam
email.
Chair, I can terminate his current connection and resend a link to him.
All right, we will take 3 minutes
Thank you.
and make that happen, and then we're going to proceed.
100%. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Osborne. Can you confirm that you can hear us? Oh, if you hit the button that looks like a head with a couple of lines irradiating from it.
Could you say it again, please?
Yep, you are here and you are connected to the meeting.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Very nicely done in less than 3 minutes. All right, who's up first?
Good evening. Thank you.
And again, I'm interrupting you yet again. I'm so sorry. Just to make sure that Mr. Barnwell realizes that it's a cumulative 10 minutes for each of the 3 parties that are going to be speaking on behalf of Ms. Henry. So just keeping that in mind.
Yeah.
All right. Actually, it was more for Mr. Barnwell, just so he was aware. All right.
So just wanted to make one item of clarity from page 2 of 5 of the candidate's financial statement. Mr. Johnson has referenced the phone and internet expense of $111. I just wanted to confirm that is her cell phone expense. Just to be clear, her web expense of $166.67 is included under advertising. You won't see the breakdown. It wasn't needed on the audited return, but I just wanted to clarify that so there's no...
I'm sorry, just say the second part again.
So the actual website expense was $166.67, and that's part of her advertising that totals $716. So.
And actually, just for the record, can we have you just give your name?
Sure, Andrew Tully.
And you're the individual who completed the...
Yes, I'm Richie Shorten Tully.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else?
The only other item, just not really as a refresher for the committee, is there was a case in Oshawa earlier this month. The applicant was Derek Giberson and the candidate was Dave Thompson with respect to advertising, newspaper ads and things like that between the campaign periods, and just wanted to, as it was your opinion, refer you back to the very similar nature to this of someone is out there in the community having different things going on. It's not in the scope of what would be considered something for this committee to be looking at. So, in my opinion, just the nature of the two expenses seems very similar. So,
Okay, thank you. I think we'll hold questions until the end of the 10 minutes, if that's okay. You want to have a seat? And I apologize, are you finished?
Yeah, I just
Okay,
sure.
thank you. Ms. Henry?
Thank you. I have no submission. I've given you my submission. Mr. Barnwell, I don't think has anything at this time. He's here to guide me and direct. So that is my 10 minutes. If there's anything that you have, please feel free, for myself, the accountant, or the lawyer.
Okay, thank you. And I can advise everyone that we have read all of the materials as well. Thank you. Does the committee have any questions? If you wanted to have a seat, Ms. Henry, we're just going to take a minute.
Of course.
Okay, Mr. Jones?
Ms. Henry, your written submission, I want to understand. You say you've had a website since 2010?
Correct. Off and on, correct, yes.
Okay. And the purpose in 2010 was, after years of community work raising a child, they decided to run for public office. After being approached, began nancyhenry.com 2010 campaign. After losing, it continued to use the site to post matters of public interest, share various events and volunteer opportunities. 2014, I assume you lost again in 2014?
You are correct, yes.
Running for the same office as a...
2010 and 2014 was the same office, Ward 2. 2018 was for regional counselor.
Okay.
And 2022 was back at the local level, where I probably should have ran in 2018.
2014 you lost, 2018 you ran regionally
Correct.
and lost?
Correct.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's not a sore subject.
You say lost with such vigor. Most people who lose, aren't as vigorous.
I'm a happy person.
Okay, if you say so. 2018, after the election, not involved in community projects due to health reasons, surgery, etc. In 2022, used the same domain, had been redesigned from 2018 version. And after inauguration, you're using a website that refers to you as the sitting member.
Correct.
Okay, just want to confirm.
The person who designed it is here if you need to speak with them.
No, but over that time, you were in and out of election period.
Correct.
Just very briefly, You indicate that you were using it when it wasn't for elections to promote community events. Is that my understanding?
Community work, community events, yes. I was chair at St. Teresa School, Catholic school. There was a lot of work that was done there. You'll see a lot of things in the community. I believe there was at one time a tab called In the Community, a lot of work that I've done with my child in the community, a lot of volunteer work with students in the community at such things as Durham Caribbean Festival, even the Ajax Santa Claus Parade, where we created a float for children with disabilities so they could participate in the float. South TD South Asian Festival, different things that were done within the community, and it showcased that work, yes.
And that was throughout all the periods where you weren't running for office, that you were using it consistently for those types of purposes?
Correct. I have a child with 2 disabilities, and as such, a lot of the stuff we've done together, mother-daughter stuff, has been showcased over time and was on there, yes.
Okay, and I guess I have my one other question. The number that your accountant referred to, the $166.67, which is included under advertising, that was the complete cost of operating that website during the time you were running for office for 2022. Is that accurate?
Yes, for the time I was running for office, correct, yes.
Those are my questions.
Anything else? Okay, sorry. Go ahead and have a seat, Ms. Henry. I think that we're going to take a few minutes. Again, we'll recess and deliberate in camera, and then we will be back.
Thank you for your time.
One moment. Madam Chair, we are live.
Thank you very much. Mr. Johnson is here, and again, Ms. Henry is here as well. Sorry, I have the podium right in the way. Again, thank you very much for your patience. Reminder that we are simply a gatekeeper function. We are not here to apportion any guilt or innocence or assign any blame. Do I have a motion from the floor, from the committee? Sorry.
I do have a motion. Before I brought the motion, I just was wondering if Mr. Barnwell was still connected. Okay. My motion, Madam Chair, is that the application for a compliance audit be denied in respect of Nancy Henry's 2022 campaign. We will have written reasons which will follow. Briefly, the primary issue raised by the applicant is a concern about capturing expenses from the website. We've heard from the candidate's accountant that those expenses were captured under advertising in their entirety. On the allegation about recycling the website and its use outside of the campaign period, the committee is satisfied that it was used for community purposes for those other years and need not have been captured in these the candidate's financial statement.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman. I guess we'll have the vote. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. I keep turning it off. So the result of that is that a compliance audit will not be ordered in this particular instance. I want to thank you both for coming. I will remind Mr. Johnson that you do have 14 days from today to appeal our decision to the Superior Court of Justice. And we will be issuing written decision within 7 days, and it will be provided to you both. And then as well, it will be posted on the website, on the municipality's website. And I believe, do you need a motion for adjournment? Can I have a motion for adjournment? I think those are all of our matters.
I move adjournment.
Thank you. And do I want to say, every municipality is slightly different on this. Seconder?
No, sorry, no seconder, but we do need to vote.
We do need to vote. Okay, all in favor of an adjournment? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Good night.